And speaking of some of the messiest deals being the best deals, we got to talk about the Guam deal. So I'll tell you the story from my end, and she's going to dive in. I'll never forget this. It was a wild week for me traveling around speaking, and I'm at the Jax airport. The investor call says, "Hey, Al, we got this deal." I do my whole analysis. They say there's no heirs, and I'm like, okay, hold on. There's always somebody around. So they did some digging, did some searching. I think I said, go to see Stephanie. You got to find out what's going on. And I remember all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they found this person. But I want you to dive in on what happened.
Yeah. So I had actually been working with this investor for a little bit, like, just kind of looking up people for them, things like that. And so we had a relationship. And so they came to me as well. And they said, hey, we found this potential deal. We don't think the heir that we're looking for is possibly alive, but we're not sure, all that stuff. So then I started looking at the family tree and I said, okay, this woman, this owner had one son. We need to look for him. And so I kind of pushed it back to them. And then they said, hey, I think we found his Facebook page. And I'm like, well, has he read your message? And then we messaged him. I said, has he read it? Because, there's one thing of like getting a message request and then seeing it. So they're like, no, he hasn't read it yet. I'm like, okay, well, let me just confirm this is him, because he didn't have the same name on Facebook. Right. So I confirm, I'm like, okay, this is for sure him. I sent him a message, right? This was last year, like almost literally exactly a year ago. I sent him a message. And I'm impatient personally. So the next day I look and he hadn't read it yet. So I'm like, well, dang, how am I going to get his attention? So I look at his Facebook profile and I'm like, oh, hey, I can comment on his posts. So I found a post that had a lot of recent interaction on it. And I just made a comment and I was just like, hey, I know you don't know me. I know this is super random, but I sent you a really important message. If you can just read it, something like that. I'd really appreciate that. And so anyway, he didn't respond to me until January. It was January 1st of this year. But it took me by surprise. And he was like, how can I help you? And we started talking. And when I told him why I was reaching out to him, he's had a lot of trauma, family trauma in the past. And he was very guarded, and for good reason. He's very guarded, and he was almost interrogating, soft interrogation. And he was asking me questions. He wanted to feel me out, and I was answering all of his questions. And so basically I passed his test, and I felt like we really kind of bonded, and we created this common trust between us. But he lives in Guam. So it was the Florida investor, and then me in California, and then him in Guam. So it's all these different time zones, and we're trying to coordinate. And I was the middleman, and he trusted me. So I had to be his point of contact throughout the whole thing. And I became very protective of him, throughout the process. But he was an amazing seller, and we're Facebook friends now. And I mean, it's just, I love my sellers. I become advocates for them, and you know what I mean? So he was a very special case. And it was just funny because his mother unfortunately passed away almost 4 years ago. And I was like, hey, would you grant us access to the house so we can see what's there, and we can send you personal stuff, family stuff. And he's like, yeah, and I want the Corvette in the garage. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. We haven't been in there yet. So we go and we check the garage, and there's no Corvette. And I'm like, oh no, because we knew that someone had access to the house. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there was a license plate on the washer, right? And I was like, and I ran the plate, and it didn't come back with anything. And I was like, hey, you don't happen to know the plate number, do you? And he's like, oh yeah, it's because it was a special plate. And I ran it. And I'm like, oh, she sold it. She sold it in 2016.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bummer. But he was just really great, and just very kind. And he did everything that we asked of him, and was very prompt, and just, it was a great deal. It was a great deal.
Yeah. And he had no idea about this property, or he knew that it was there, but nobody reached out.
I think that he knew it was there, but there was a family friend, that was involved. And I think this person initially was trying to somewhat take the estate or take the property or something, but then kind of went MIA, because I think people were catching on. He went MIA. And so I think that maybe spooked the heir a little bit, or maybe he just didn't feel like worthy of it. I'm not quite sure, but I mean, ultimately we proved that like he was the rightful heir, and you know, he was very grateful for that. So he's been disconnected from his family for a while. Besides his mother, like they actually talked up until her passing, obviously. But yeah, it was very special.
Yeah, I was very impressed when you found that heir. And it was like all of a sudden, randomly, we got him. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that ended up being a great deal, right? Another story about, you know, hey, can't find somebody, found them, done deal. I think probate was what, 2-3 weeks. It was like
It was
over.
quick.
It was over. Yeah. I mean, done. When it comes to jumping into short-term rentals, what are people looking for when maybe in terms of the properties or the type of loan they should get for that kind of property?
Okay.
Or like how to title it. Like I'm a new investor. I'm interested in getting into doing that. I have no idea about any of it. I've done the other stuff, but this is another creature.
Okay.
What are we looking for?
Well, as far as a property, what you're looking for, you want to think about when you go on vacation, what do you look for? And most people, when they're wanting to buy a property for Airbnb, or when they're going to stay in an Airbnb, they want something nicer than where they live. And so pool homes have always been a big hit. Maybe a hot tub, a game room, a view, maybe a lake view, or maybe they have a kayak and a body of water behind their property, or fishing. Some of our successful Airbnbs, one of them's on a lake, and we didn't even know it was a great fishing lake. But the first person that stayed there sent us this picture of this like 7 or 8 pound bass that he caught. And this is like a 16-year-old kid. And they sent us a picture and we were like, wow, thank you. Do you mind if we use this in marketing?
Yeah.
And so we've used that, and we've had people rent that house specifically that want to go fishing there. And so you just have to find out what's going to attract people. What would attract you to this property? And if you don't feel that, hey, I would want to rent this house if I live somewhere else, then why would somebody else want to live there?
Right.
And one of the things that has kind of changed with people renting property, Airbnbs now, or VRBOs, is now you're seeing, because of inflation, you're seeing a lot of people travel with other people. Like, my family wants to travel with your family. Let's have our two families go together instead of just me and my family. Mm-hmm. That way it's less expensive. So if you want to go to, the oceanfront property or to the mountains or whatever, it's oftentimes you'll have a group of 8 or 9. And so if you go and buy a 2-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom house, they're not even going to see your property for rent. So the more people that can sleep there without, sleeping on the floor, obviously, but
right.
Beds, and there's a term, heads and beds, and you don't want to go too far with that. But if you're able to sleep 8 to 10 people, that you're typically going to attract most of the groups out there.
Okay, interesting. And then when it comes to like the loan side of it, like you're the loan officer, right? Like what types of loans as an investor, like the kind of terms, like favorable terms, am I looking for if I want to buy that property? Of course, that's going to vary, depend on the area, the value, but like typically what kind of loan is this?
So for certain people, we'll use a conventional loan, and conventional, you close in your personal name, 30-year fixed, very, very vanilla loan, and nothing wrong with that. Some of the savvier investors will close in a LLC or a corporate name, a corporate structure. In Florida, most prefer an LLC. And so when we call it an AirDNA loan. And so AirDNA is a website that will tell us what the future income for this property will be. Type in the address, there's it's a 6-bedroom, 3-bath, sleeps 12. You type that in there and it says, boom, the income's $100,000 a year. That's what the estimate is. And so that product it's still a 30-year fixed product, but we call it a DSCR loan. And for Airbnb, it's just basically a DSCR for Airbnb. And for anybody that doesn't know DSCR, which is a lot of people, that's debt service coverage ratio. And in English terms, I know you're an attorney, so I can talk in attorney terms with you. But in English terms, debt service coverage ratio means this is what the mortgage payment is. This is what the possible rent is for the property. We want to make sure the rent is higher than what the mortgage payment is.
Gotcha.
If it's equal, we can lend on that too. But you don't want it to be this way. You don't want the mortgage payment $3,000 and the rent's $1,600. That's not gonna. Right. You're not gonna do well with that. And so that's what the appraisers will determine what the rent is. Or for an Airbnb loan, we go off of that website, AirDNA, and it's an independent third-party website, not affiliated directly with Airbnb, and it'll tell us what we estimate that income to be for the property.
Gotcha. So there's definitely that kind of analysis that goes into that. And is that very specific with Airbnbs?
Yes, and very specific to the address. So we physically type in the address and all the details, and then it spits out a report based on that property.
Are there other people doing this kind of stuff like on the loan end, or are you like a unicorn?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm a unicorn. I might have been a unicorn doing this in like 2018, but now more and more are getting on the bandwagon and doing it because there's less and less conventional business. There's less people buying homes to live in right now. You know, they I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but
it's okay.
62% of all mortgages in America have a rate of 4% or less. And so when you think about that, you know, if you've got a 3% rate, do you want to sell your house and go buy something at 8% or whatever the market rate is at the time? No. You know, you're doubling your payments, you know? And so that's a big deal. And that's why, you know, right now there's like maybe 1 million houses for sale nationwide, and a healthy market, it's more like, you know, 2 to 3 million. Yeah. And so that's why there's very low inventory. That's why housing prices have not come down yet, because there's just not enough available for sale. But then the prices are so high, most people can't afford them. Right. So being an investor right now, I think is a great time because yes, interest rates are high. Affordability is a little bit tough. But, you know, we're at that point now where America's starting to become a nation of renters. Mm-hmm. And they're estimating that number is going to continue to rise all the way through 2040. Mm. So did I get too far off on the tangent?
No, the first thing that came to my mind was I was at a multifamily summit about 2 weeks ago, and the last panel of the day talked about where the market was at in terms of whether it was interest rates or the insurance premiums and what's kind of going on in the Florida market. And so, like you said, they didn't say the stat, but they said like there's so many people that refinanced back in 2020, 2021 that they're at 3% or, you know, 4%. But all of a sudden, because the insurance premiums have gone through the roof, they're in a pickle. And they're in a pickle because they don't want to keep getting nailed with the insurance rates, but they got a nice an interest rate. And so anywhere else they go, it's going to be 7, 8%, wherever it is. Who knows? It could be even better depending on what they get. But it is a tough market to be in right now, whether it's an investor or whether you're trying to buy or even sell. You have to really determine your numbers on where you're at. Is it going to be worth even getting into that? And I know a lot of people in Florida are dealing with the insurance issues right now. So it's an interesting point. Okay, I want to hear about this because you guys did tell it at the dinner table, but it wasn't closed yet. So the deal with Nick, try to start from the beginning because this lady was interesting. And I love to hear how it all went down.
Oh, geez. No, I'm thinking of our crazy guy that we just did together. We've done a few deals together.
Yeah, there are a few deals.
Who was the lady? Because I love the story. Who was the lady that went to you and then all of a sudden said, well, I got somebody that wants to offer more. And then they went back to the other person. They said, oh, the other investor wants to offer more. And then you were like, wait a second. What's going on here? And then you found out, I don't know if it was Nick or somebody else. And you were like, this lady's playing games with everybody.
Oh, that's this lady in St. Pete. Jason, who was with us that day, was the title company. We had a lady who said yes to a deal. We write up a seller finance deal, great deal on this condo. We sent it to Jason, who owns the title company. And it's like late. Like Jen and I are on the couch watching a movie.
It's a Friday night. Trying to be normal.
Yeah. And we never get to watch movies. So the fact that we were was even kind of strange. And I get a text message from Jason. He's like, I just saw somebody post your deal in a Facebook group. I was like, wait, what? And so I reach out to the guy on Facebook and I'm like, hey, bud, like, you have a deal here, huh? And he's like, yeah, I sure do. We're direct to seller. I was like, interesting. I just signed an agreement with this lady today. And he was like, oh my gosh, we did too. And this lady was like reaching out to everybody and having everybody sign agreements with her. And so she's like freaking out, like wants a $20,000 deposit sent to the title company, which I was like working on the wire, but it's a Friday night. And I don't know why she was so frantic. Well, she says, well, the other guy, lo and behold, was only going to give a $300 deposit. So she liked my deal better, but like, I don't know. That one was crazy. And then the last one, we actually just closed with Nick because we did not close on that.
Yeah, that one went to the other people they signed first.
Yeah,
so
but
we
then
lost that one.
Yeah, but she's still calling me with another property.
Yeah.
But the one we just did with Nick, we actually had a seller reach out, wanted to sell his property, talk to Lexi, love Lexi. He wants a cash offer. This is right in Nick's like almost backyard, Clearwater, Florida. So I send this deal to Nick, the address, and I'm like, hey, what do you think this house is worth? Because it looks like this is a pretty solid deal. And Nick's head blew up. He's like, we're working the same lead right now with this guy, but he won't answer the phone. I was like, well, he's answering our phone calls because he likes Lexi a lot. And so what he did was he was talking to 2 other investors, and they came up with a little bit higher number than we initially wanted to. But he came back to Lexi once again and says, here's the agreement the other guys gave me. If you can match that price, I'll go with you because I think you guys are awesome. And instead of going back and forth and then Nick trying to get in there and we were fighting against each other in the price, we just collaborated in that deal together.
Wow.
And which was great because it's right close to him. So we bought it with creative finance. Seller wanted his equity, but we left that loan in place for a month, made 1 payment. So when we bought it, we just cleaned it up. Really didn't take much. A little bit of paint. I think we serviced the air conditioner, stuff like that. And we put it in the market and sold it. Obviously, we're halves on the deal. And we just finally closed on that like last week.
Wow.
So, but yeah, it's all types of crazy situations, and it seems like every deal we do with him is always
a little nutty.
It's always a little extra spicy. The same one goes with our lady in. Oh, geez, are you talking about the one on Marco Island? I'm guessing too.
Well, no, I thought the other one was with Nick, but yeah, I was just thinking about the Marco Island one. I wasn't sure if that was the same one that you put on the notes too on the bottom.
Yeah, that's the one where
that one will go down in infamy.
Because Nick brings in a buyer on this. We have a house on Marco Island under contract. Lady will only do
cash.
Guys,
get this. So she came in on. We do run sponsored ads, and she came in on a comment and she said 900,000, and it's yours. That was it. She commented on a post on an ad, and if anyone else, didn't take that seriously, but we've trained our team and we take every comment treat it like gold, and we asked her the questions, and sure enough, she was dead serious.
So when you put your blue post in these Facebook groups and people comment, take those comments very seriously, guys. This one, she just wrote 900,000 and it's yours.
You were kind of like, huh, okay, but
900,000.
Marco Island, Florida, if you know anything about it.
On the water, I think it was worth about 1.8 million. She's asking 900,000 for it.
ARV was 1.8.
Yeah, on the water, Marco Island, and it had a new boat lift, jet ski lift, the whole 9.
But had
the ranch
a
was
broken window.
Yeah,
rain was coming in.
Had one window in the back that was broken. Rain comes in. The lady has been living there for years. She wants to live out in the country. It was like a 2,000 square foot ranch built in like 91.
Did not want to get it market ready. She just wanted to be done. Cash offer. Let me go.
And so Nick's like, hey, I have a buyer who will take this deal. I know somebody. And I was like, okay, well, we could partner up on it. Guys, this is $1 million deal. We had a buyer at like 1.2 million almost.
This story stings, guys.
And Nick's like, oh yeah, the guy will be great. It's somebody that he knows. They've done a lot of business together. Well, 3:30 the day of closing, I get a call from the title company. And the title company is like, hey, your 3:00 appointment never showed for closing. Meanwhile, we got a text from the guy earlier in the day. Oh, he's on the plane flying down. He's going to closing. Then I thought, what kind of crap is that? How many closings have I done where I had to fly anywhere? I mean, they come to my house. I get it notarized right at my kitchen table now. So I should have used that as my first inkling. But our buyer backed out the day of closing.
Wow.
And on $1 million property. So now the bad part about it is, sure, we could have found another buyer. But my heart was like breaking because the lady who was selling us this house was closing on her house the next morning. And she needed all of the cash for this house to buy her next house. And those people who were selling her that house were going to be buying their next house with the proceeds from that sale. That was happening 4 times. So it was like all these people sell. And like the schmuck who was going to buy our house doesn't even like let us know. We find out from the title company, he just like doesn't show up, and he even lied to us saying he was flying down. So really, really interesting. I freak out. I call everybody in the world I know. I'm like, hey, would you like a really amazing deal on this property? Good news is you need to have $1 million by tomorrow morning. And about 9:30 at night that day, I found somebody.
Wow.
And he was like, yep, I'll take it. And did. And we did the deal. Still, it was 4th of July weekend. So, of course, like,
we were literally moving, like packing up like everything in our house. So we had 45 days to get back down to Florida. And so it was just chaos. I'm all mad because he's not helping me pack and throw out things. And he's just pacing on the phone, trying to find a buyer, and I even looked at him one time. I was like, just let's give it up, call the seller, say we're sorry. And he's like, no. So talk about like grit, determination, persistence. Like this man embodies that.
Yeah, no kidding. That wasn't the one that was like assigned a couple of times, right?
There was, so here's what I found.
We found out afterward.
This is where I learned what daisy chaining was called. If any of you don't know what that means your buyer is wholesaling that to another buyer who's wholesaling that to another buyer. And there's really like 7 people in a row, and I didn't know this. I thought Nick's guy knew the guy, right? Come lo and behold, there's like 5 guys in between. Wow. So it was a whole domino.
And Nick didn't know.
Yeah. But he felt so bad. He was like, bro, are you kidding me right now? And I'm like, do you know anybody who's got $1 million by tomorrow morning?
Oh no, I remember seeing his face. He was talking about it.
Oh my god!
And I try to bust his chops, but no, he's a good guy.
So the 4th of July, 2022, where any of you are out having a good old time, I was losing hair, and the hair that stayed turned gray like that weekend. Yeah. But we did make the deal. Life goes on. Jody Compton, we love you. She loves us. Yeah. Life is good.
Love it. Love hearing that. So as the world continues to evolve into a virtual online platform, real estate investors are looking to leverage opportunities with useful and efficient software platforms, CRMs, and AI to automate and expedite their businesses and lead gen process. As a real estate investor, what are your go-to software and AI platforms going into 2024? And any thoughts on the future of AI in real estate investing?
CJ, why don't you start with that one since you already dropped the AI bomb earlier?
I'm gonna gracefully kind of step back on this one, only because I'm releasing a software that has AI functionality built into it for text messaging, and we're going to be adding AI calling to it as well. I know, but I will say this because I don't want to plug what I'm doing, right? There's a ton of tools out here with ChatGPT capability. There's some other AI platforms out here as well. What I am doing, and I will say this for sure, is we are utilizing AI inside of text message conversations to do automated follow-ups. And these are bots that will book calls for you, right? So the bot will have conversations with your sellers that are in your CRM, and they will try to create conversations to prompt them to book an appointment with you on your calendar. Think like a Calendly link in order to have a phone appointment with you about selling their property. So we're already implementing that. We're using that. That's working extremely well for us right now. And it completely removes the requirement to have a VA essentially, or multiple VAs sending out text. We're getting ready to test a voice AI bot. And we have a couple of friends that are already using it, but we're getting ready to test and build one ourselves.
What? I'm going to pass.
No.
What are you doing?
Hey, guess what? No, you know what? That's all I got. Y'all figure out AI. Y'all figure it out. I don't know anything about it.
So here's what I'll say. AI is the future. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. Everyone believes that, right? I'm spending about 0 time investigating into it. Not to say I don't believe in it, right? I totally believe in it. I just don't think that's the best use of my personal time. I'm going to let someone super smart like CJ figure it out and just pay him the $99, $197 a month, whatever it is, right? Let someone else make a lot of money figuring this out. I'm working on my own stuff. So I think AI, again, like I completely am behind it. It's just not going to be me doing it. So I'm going to pay attention to what the innovators, you got CJ, you got Devin Robinson, you got Tyler Austin in Florida, right? The REI Sift. Yeah, Brett Marino. I'm just paying attention, like when they're like, "Hey, go do this, go check this out." Like I'll play with here and there, but I'm focused on me. I'm doing RJ's hedgehog concept right now.
Love it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to mirror what Steve said. I mean, right now my head's down and I'm focused on what we're doing. It's working. I don't have like any needs inside of our company right now to fill a gap. Like we don't do any text follow up like CJ's talking about because we know how to close deals. That's why we don't need $5,000 budget for paper lead. So we don't have to do that. So I don't need his $99 a month product yet. But I will say to Steve's point, when someone comes along like CJ and says, this is what I'm doing and I'm crushing it, at that point in time, we will implement it in and test it out, just like we did Paper Lead. When we started Paper Lead, we were heavy texting. We were doing the exact same volume, texting and cold calling. We implemented Paper Lead, and then it became, hey, A/B test. Our cost per lead is the same on this Paper Lead, and I don't have to get yelled at every other call because it's outbound marketing. Let's get rid of that. My life's better now, and everyone here enjoys the marketing that we're doing. That's what we'll do as soon as someone rolls out some AI platform like CJ.
Yeah, so Tyler Austin's here, right? So yeah, I'm buying Tyler Austin's product. I can guarantee it's gonna be better than Chris's.
Whoa.
Tyler's here. I love it.
Hey, shout out to my brother Tyler. That's my guy, man. Shout out to Tyler.
Let's go. I got Tyler's sticker right there. He knows it. I love it, guys. Great answers all the way around. Yeah, you leave it to the experts and the people that are developing the softwares out there for sure. All right, let's talk about untapped markets and hidden niches. So saturation in certain markets is real. Investors are always looking for new markets to tap into and different niches to explore that others are not focusing on. Moving into 2024, what are some markets and hidden niches investors should focus on in this new economic climate?
So I'll take a swing at this because I've had this conversation with several investors that I highly respect lately. And there's this, we literally, all of us just said, hey, you should be doing Paper Lead marketing, right? And then we're ignoring the fact that with multiple softwares out there that allow us to comp nationwide with MLS comps, we have Paper Lead models that are coming out. Why are more people not expanding out of their backyard to do virtual wholesaling anywhere? I mean, it was funny. I was talking to another investor that's very well respected, and it was like he was focused on these big markets, the Phoenix, the Tampas, the Baltimores, and it's like, dude, what about Cedar Rapids? What about Tulsa? What about Little Rock? These places that people never talk about. When we talk about what are some of the hidden markets, it's just the like tier 2 markets right below that no one's doing any marketing in. And it's so easy to close deals there. And not to like keep bashing on CJ for his answer earlier, but it's true. I mean, it's like, that's why I don't think you have to have that big of a marketing budget if you're not trying to get deals in Phoenix. Like if you're trying to get deals in Phoenix in Steve's backyard, yeah, you better have a minimum of $5,000.
But nobody's doing deals in Phoenix right now.
Some people are doing deals in Phoenix.
The people doing deals in Phoenix right now, they got to be doing deals right now. All right, that's what's happening.
What does that mean?
Well, when the business is so big, Steve, you got to keep the wheels on the bus turning, my brother. You got to keep revenue coming in the door. It doesn't matter where we're at in the economic cycle. If you don't keep rev hitting the door, you got a bigger problem than breaking even.
Yeah, we're doing deals in Phoenix, but it's nothing to write home about, right? I'm not going to be on Real Estate Disruptors talking about how awesome my business is in Phoenix, right? So then there's that. So untapped markets, again, I'm following RJ's lead here, right? I saw what he did. I saw what he's done. I watched Close's Olympics. These are laydown deals. Like RJ's the king closer because he's talking to people that are ready to sell right now. He doesn't even have to sell them. They're like, hey, like give me $50,000 over my $100,000 house, and just gives it to them. So yeah, we're following RJ's lead. It's working. So Focus 2024, we shifted this focus. When was Close's Olympics? August?
Yeah.
We shifted this focus in August.
Wow.
Yeah, virtual wholesaling for us too. I don't know if is that a niche or is that wholesaling, but we're doing virtual wholesaling for sure. We're doing what we call hands-off wholesaling, focusing on acquisitions, getting deals out to other people to take care of dispositions and everything else past that. and just building sales systems. And that's been working out phenomenal for us for the last 24 months. And then on the buy side, RJ kind of was hinting at this. By far, I'm shocked at how many people are not buying properties that cost under $100,000 right now. The Sun Belt, Midwest, there's some really great markets with population sizes from 200,000 to 350,000 where there's a lot of money that could be made. I'm looking for value add appreciation down the line and taking advantage of Section 8 in the interim and making some really great yield and catching some really big nuggets on appreciation.
I'm glad that CJ brought up take advantage when he was talking about affordable housing. Like he is just
right.
He's just taking advantage.
No. What I'm saying,
like, yes, I know you're working for $3.50 an hour at this diner, but you're making $30 and 9 tips. And by the way, I'm gonna buy this house so you can't buy it.
Look, the cycle does whatever it does, right? If you can buy a house right now in Birmingham, Alabama for $50,000, you can rent it out for $850 a month or $1,000 Section 8. That's a great deal. Right. And what's going to end up happening is Birmingham, Alabama, if you look at the census data, is going to continue to grow. And once it does grow, that $50,000 house is going to be $150. We've seen it before, right? It's going to be $150. Then it's $200. And then I'm cashing out in the name of capitalism, like Steve. And then I'm donating my money, not all of it, right? But a portion of it to affordable housing causes like I do right now.
Al, I'm going to give you the perfect example of what I'm talking about here. So the theory used to be that we had to be really great at acquisitions because we were trying to get deals in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Phoenix and these types of places, and we were competing against people. If you shift your focus to go into markets where there's no competition on the acquisitions, but you shift your focus to working really hard on dispositions. Case in point, we got a deal in Hamilton, Alabama, okay? It took us about 3 weeks during the dispositions process to reverse prospect to find there is a cash buyer in Hamilton, Alabama that owns 60 units.
Mm-hmm.
He's never received a wholesale deal. He didn't even know what wholesaling was, but he's like, dude, if you could bring me more deals, I'll buy every single one.
Wow.
Now we're the only person. Every time we get a deal there, we're just shipping it to that one person and we're stacking those types of markets. That's what I'm talking about. That's a hidden niche right there.
You're seeing the new king of Hamilton, Alabama right here.
Yes.
The brilliance of Kendall Lejeune comes into the mindset and building that culture of excellence, right? And that's what I really want you to stress to people about how to do it, what to do. So let's talk about that, the mindset and the mental challenges when it comes to land and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So, I think that one of the issues that a lot of people have when I see that they are, maybe they've done a couple of land deals and now they want to start getting more consistent with their land deals. They want to create an actual business. Someone that I really admire and look up to, I've had this conversation with him, Logan Fulmer.
Yeah,
he has he has a fantastic term that he calls like people that just kind of are doing like a deal here, deal there, but not having a consistent business. He calls those deal shops. There's a difference between having a deal shop and having a consistent business that has systems and processes. And, I think that it's really important to recognize the difference between those two because it takes a different type of owner, right? It takes a different type of owner to have a business compared to a deal shop. And the mindset around that is when you're in a deal shop and you're just like trying to grind it out and just get a deal and just throw stuff at the wall, whatever sticks. The difference is you're doing whatever it takes and you're kind of wearing all of the hats and it's spread, your focus and attention is spread everywhere and just trying to play whack-a-mole to get the deal done. Whereas whenever you have a business that is a consistent functioning business that's getting you consistent deals a month, it's really difficult to do that without setting up systems and processes that automate the way that you do the business. And I think that that's a completely different mindset, right? Like you have to now be thinking about, well, what is the plan for our business? What are the goals? What is my company culture? who are the people that I'm going to bring on? How am I going to train those people? How am I going to manage those people? It's a different type of mental state that you have to be in when you approach your business versus I just have to get these deals done, right?
Right. Yeah. Instead of it treating it as just going after everything and having it just be total chaos, you're reining in the chaos. But as soon as you start scaling your team and growing your team, they can't read your mind. They can't tap into what you know, and they can't. There may be things they don't know how to explain, and that definitely comes down to the training. That comes down to writing out your standard operating procedures. That comes down to having difficult conversations in the moment and addressing it, which is what we do all the time. We're always having those conversations because you can't let it go a week or 2 weeks. It doesn't have the same application and reinforcement, right? So we're always having those conversations. And like you said, like you got to be prepped and ready to overcome challenges with growing your team, hiring people, scaling, and all of that comes with having that business, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head when you said earlier, organized chaos. And I definitely think that there's a season for that, right? When you're first starting out, you're trying to get your feet underneath you. There's definitely a season for organized chaos and to, take all the messy action that you possibly can and get some type of traction. But then there has to be a point if you want to progress to a business owner where you're now creating systems and processes and consistent business flow, where now you're being a lot more intentional, right? So you go from organized chaos to intentionality and really setting intention. And, I think I'm going to give another shout out here to my brilliant friend and owner of Supercharged Offers, Alicia Jarrett.
Yes.
She is absolutely incredible. We can geek out about this topic for hours at a time, but she has a great analogy that building a business is very much like flying a plane while you're trying to build the plane, right? And so I love that because it's so true. You're trying to do the business of the business, right? Like you're trying to flip the land, you're trying to wholesale the houses, whatever it is. But then you're also trying to work on the vehicle that's doing that at the same time. And you kind of have to have this balance between both of those. And I think that it's really important to be intentional about what you're building. And I've seen lots of times when people say, because you mentioned hiring, we'll talk about that because I could talk about that forever. But I see so many people say, hey, I don't like getting on the phone with sellers. And so I can get a VA to do that, right? And the answer is yes, you can get a virtual assistant to do anything that you train them to do. But again, kind of borrowing what Alicia says is that how do you know what's good if you haven't done it and been able to at least be proficient at it, right? At some point as business owners, we always want to hire people and train them to get to a point where they are better than we are at those individual tasks. I mean, that's how businesses grow. But at the end of the day, when you're first starting out, you're bringing people onto your team, it's not really outsourcing. It's adding to your team so then they can help you to do more things in your business, not so you don't have to do something, right? And that's a very different mindset from, well, I'm just going to hire someone and plug them in. Because guys, I got to tell you, bringing someone on your team, and Al, you know all about this, I'm sure of it. It's a full-time job because now you have to train them. You have to make sure that they're a good fit. You have to make sure that you're managing them, holding people accountable, sharing your vision. I mean, there's so many different things that go into bringing a team member on that if you falter in any one of those things, like it can be a disaster. So I think it's important that you understand what is the mission of your business, what's your vision of your business, what are those core values? Like I think like in my business, professionalism, excellence, customer service, those are sort of the values that that really just kind of, I guess it would be, it informs the lens that we do everything through. And if we're not hiring people to fit that, gosh, we're we're in for a world of hurt. I've learned.
What happens too when a seller, you can't get one to respond? I see that story as well.
Man, that's my favorite one. So obviously we have our marketing channels where it's cold call. We actually have a cadence that we go by. It's a 10-day cadence. So if you are on our cadence, I'm going to dive into this, is we have about a 10-day cadence. We have a 14-day cadence. So whenever I attempt to call someone, we are very cold call heavy because we want that response instant. I don't want to wait 2 weeks for mail. So if we can't get you by mail, text, phone call, whatever, I'm stalking you on Facebook, we can't find you, we will go to our sources and we'll get a skip trace, deep skip trace. And my favorite thing is I will send a pizza to the person. Okay. And I'll tell you how we do it. So I always look up the address, pick a pizza place. Like Pizza Hut's always in every town, I feel like. And we'll call the manager, we'll call whoever's over the Pizza Hut. We'll go, hey, I need you to write this message inside the pizza box. Because again, remember, I need to stand out compared to your We Buy Houses letter. So whenever you open the pizza box, it goes, hey, McKlane sent me this pizza. It says, call him. Here's his number. So we send him a full package, like pepperoni pizza. Can't go wrong with that. A Coke, brownies. But what we do is we tip the driver and we say, hey, have them sign off their name, sign off on who it is there. So one, we accomplish the wow factor. They sent me a pizza. Okay, it cost me $15, maybe 20. Okay, 2, we got a visual confirmation from the driver, and then 3, we get their signature, or hey, they got a response from the driver like, oh, tell the guy I said thank you, here's my number. But we get a confirmation in 3 different ways. And so I'll tell you, we are 100% on our contact ratio with that, with pizzas. Like it's not a 30% chance of response. We are 100% on our response rate for pizza. It's expensive, but it's 100% response.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me about that last week. I'm thinking like, wait a second, you're sending a pizza to like, potential sellers, but like it gets a response.
Yeah.
And that goes into like really grabbing their attention, like grabbing a seller's attention, just doing something different and going outside of the box, outside of the norm. That's crazy. I couldn't even imagine that, right? Could even imagine that. What was the reaction? Did they ever say anything? Did they give you good feedback on it?
So 2 stories come out in my head here, but the first one, like I'll tell you this one, it is probably my favorite one. It's also kind of out there, if you will. So we had a seller, they're up in Ohio, and we could not get in contact with them. We were doing a probate. It was 8 heirs. We had one that was a holdout. Had an initial phone call, perfectly fine. Hey, I'm on board. This guy went ghost for like 2 months. And what we did is we're like, look, we don't know where he lives. We just know he lives in the area, in this town. So we did a deep skip trace. We found the address, which we thought was his at the time. Turns out it was his ex-wife. So, and it gets better. So we did our normal routine. Hey, Al, I need to order pizza. I need you to do a special request. I need you to write inside the box. And then when you deliver it, tell me who's there. Like have them sign off, say thank you. We had this pizza delivered. And delivery driver goes, it was a gentleman. He didn't say his name. He did sign off, named it, match what you told me. So we're kind of confused. I'm like, where's this going to go? Next day, so a whole 24 hours later, I get a random phone call, and I pick up, and it's this guy's ex-wife. And she goes, you almost got me killed. And it was some words in there and stuff like that. And I go, what do you mean? Well, like, I can hear someone throwing stuff in the background, like just ruffling, and like someone is getting hurt. And I go, is everything okay? What happened? And she goes, you almost got me killed. You sent a pizza from my ex-husband. And I go, whoa, what?
What?
So her current husband is in the background yelling at her, and it is just ripping into the house trying to find something because he thinks that she's cheating on him.
Oh my gosh.
So I get on the phone with the husband. I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find this guy. He's been evading us. And he's like, oh, it's fine. I just thought she was cheating on me. So like after 20 minutes, we get done. She calls me 2 hours later. She goes, look, I'm so sorry about that. I have been talking to him. He's been in the mines. So he was actually finishing a contract in the mines. And she goes, he's been in the mines. Here's his new phone number. You can call him at this time. Had to call him at like 3 a.m. And she was able to get us all that information off the pizza. But we would have never gotten a response from him because he had a 6-month contract. And this guy was working like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and wouldn't get back out of the tunnels or the mines until like 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And most investors, you're working 8 to 5. So why are you going to call them that evening or that night?
And you called him at 3 in the morning?
Yes.
This deal was that worth it?
Oh yeah, it was like a $50,000 deal. And all we needed was him. That's all we needed.
Wait, how long did it take you to close?
We also had an $83,000 Medicaid lien. I got negotiated down to $1,200.
Hey, that's worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it. Totally worth it.
I love how you talked about this the other day, which is how the days of saving retirement are over. Talk to us.
So if you really stop to think about it, right? You look at your parents or you look at your grandparents. It was a different time back then, right? A lot of people, could save their way to retirement. What I mean by save their way to retirement is by the time their check came in and they made their house payment or their car payment or pay for, whatever cost of living that they had money left over that they could put in a retirement account. Okay. They saved their way to retirement. Their investment principles were a little bit different, right? They put money in a retirement account and most of their retirement account was the money they put in. So they just wanted safe, secure investments that protected their principal, which is completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But what type of economy are we in today? Okay. And this is not a Debbie Downer scenario. This is just real life. Cost of living is up, right? Housing is way up. It's the first time in our history right now that the average median income doesn't qualify for the average median home price. So what's that do about retirement? Well, people have less money left over after they've paid all their monthly expenses to even think about their retirement. So the saving for retirement just doesn't work today unless we see cost of living come down or wages go way up. So you have to really focus if you're trying to get to retirement, you have to think about investing towards retirement. And this is why we've seen a huge shift just in the past couple years of people taking their money out of the stock market, which I'm not against, but people are looking for alternative ways to grow their retirement. And when you look at things like real estate, just real estate as a fundamental investment, real estate's got cash flow, real estate's got appreciation. 90% of America's millionaires have been made buying real estate. Now people are starting to put 2 and 2 together and saying, if I can't get good returns that outpace inflation in the stock market, I need to find a way to invest in other things that might have different streams of income. Now people are putting 2 and 2 together and more people are self-directing and saying, I want real estate or I want notes with monthly income in my retirement account, because that's the only way that they can get to retirement now, because they can't save their way. You got to invest your way.
Right. And people want to make more on their return on their investments more than ever. They want to make higher than like 6, 7%. They want to make 11, 12, 13% on their investments. And you want to do it tax free. And you want to be able to pull that money out when you need it. And then, what's so great about that IRA is you just keep putting money into it. And then when you hit that retirement age, you can keep putting money into it. And it has a lot of benefits to it. But what Nate you're talking about is huge right now with the cost of living being higher than ever. Inflation is through the roof. Who knows when that will come down. You have to source to alternative investments. And I love how you talked about it with me, which is a lot of people aren't focused on their IRAs. They're not focused on using these alternative investments. And this is what the wealthy people do, right?
Yeah, I mean, the wealthy have been using self-directed IRAs for decades. So just to let you know, as a reminder, self-directed is just a marketing term. Ever since the mid-'70s when IRAs were created, you can invest in the same things, anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. So the rich and the wealthy, though, have been using self-directed IRAs to accumulate real estate and invest in large real estate deals. I mean, there's a lot of clients that like to invest in apartments or commercial properties or large syndications. These are now investments that are available to the mass public because of the internet. Now we've got information and technology that wasn't accessible to us, a few decades ago. But a few decades ago, it was almost an investment of in the know. You had to know somebody investing in an apartment building. You had to know somebody running a syndication or a private equity fund. So the rich and the wealthy have been investing their IRAs into these investments for a long period of time. And I'll tell you, they did an audit in 2016-ish and had an article in Forbes in 2020, which blew my mind, which most people probably missed, but I'll tell you what was in the article. There was an audit of about 27,000 tax returns, and they were looking at different things or different investment classes that people had in their IRAs. And here's the two numbers that stood out to me. Out of all of the IRAs out there, we're talking 14 trillion dollars. Only 2% of all of that money is invested in what we call alternative assets, things like real estate, commercial property, syndications, private equity. Only 2% of the entire amount. But when they just audited the IRAs that were valued above $5 million, guess how much of the assets in those accounts were alternative assets? 25%. So that tells you right there, the rich and the wealthy know the value of alternative investments. Look at family offices, for example. Family offices manage, money and assets of people that are ultra wealthy between $10 and $50 million. Look at the asset makeup of those family offices. Almost 45 to 50% of the asset makeups are alternative assets like real estate. So people in the know, people with money have been doing this. It's not new. It's just new to everybody else because now you can find investments online that you couldn't find a decade ago.
Yeah. And like you were telling me, you were like, what else do the wealthy do? They change their mindset and then they change the timing of their contributions, right? So what did you notice in either your clients' trends or articles that was different about the timing of their contribution versus when other people contributed to their IRA?
That's a great point. So, and I think, and it's no fault to anybody. I think we've just been conditioned to think about our IRA in a retirement account really is just an afterthought, right? Work at a company, set up a 401k, put 10% of your earnings in your 401k and just don't even think about it. You'll wind up with a big retirement account at the end of the year. Doesn't work like that. But also we've been conditioned to make contributions to our IRAs before our tax filing deadline. So what people are doing is they're waiting all the way until like April 14th or whenever they're filing their taxes to throw in their annual contribution for their IRAs for the previous year. Well, guess what the wealthy do? They don't wait until tax filing deadline. As soon as January 1st hits, they make their annual contribution because you can make it as soon as January 1st hits, you're in the new year, you can max out your contributions to an IRA. But why do they do that? Because they give their IRA more capital at the beginning of the year, so it has 16 more months than the average person to grow tax-free. It's just a mindset switch. You can throw the money in January 1st or April 14th, but guess what the wealthy do? They throw it in early because they want that money invested, growing tax-deferred or tax-free.
Yeah, I love that strategy. Get it in as soon as you can. And then you know what? The rest of the year, you don't even have to think about it. You did it. January 1st, that's it. And then you ride the market and wherever it goes, and then you're investing and playing around with the investments.